Hey, what's up guys, it's Marv and welcome back to another Asphalt 9 video. Today we got multiplayer gameplay and a kind of review of the McLaren F1 LM. Now, if you're not familiar with the McLaren F1 LM in Asphalt 9, there's currently a Grand Prix going on right now where you can win this car. And of course, if you don't know where this car sort of stands, it is the king of B class in terms of where it's placed in the rankings. It's all the way up there. And yeah, its rank certainly reflects that it's the highest rank in B class. So anyway, this car is super interesting because we've known about it for a very, very long time. And we were all expecting a McLaren season from this, but of course we got the British season, and then the McLaren was kind of in the, or the F1 was in the second wave of that season. But here it is, like I said, in the Grand Prix, and the gameplay you're seeing here is from the multiplayer series, which is the sort of max gold test of that, so everyone can play it, which is really nice. I love that they are doing this. And right now there is the McLaren Speedtail going on, so I might have a video on that car if I have the time to make it. But anyway, today is all about the F1 LM because so many, and I mean so many people have been waiting for some version of the F1 to get added into Asphalt 9, and you know, we got the LM version, which of course means that it was going to be a Grand Prix. Now, currently I believe I'm number 2 in the Grand Prix, so I think I'll get the car, but that's not what worries me, because this car, even though many people and the rank says it's a king, I personally do not think that this is going to dethrone the other cars in Class B for a couple of different reasons. Now, firstly, I want to look at the stats, because the stats pretty much just tell the story right out of the gate. So the top speed, I believe, is the highest in B class, so no doubt about it there. I believe the max top speed is like 244 miles per hour, 4 miles an hour faster than the Gumpert Apollo, or so, wow, not Gumpert, but the Apollo N. Gosh, I'm still in 2009. But anyway, 4 miles per hour more than the Apollo N, so not huge of a difference, but it's definitely noticeable, and of course much faster than something like the Huracan, which I believe maxes out at 223 or something like that. But anyway, top speed definitely has it there. I'm going to skip acceleration, want to go back to that later, but the handling is really, really good. Of course, going off stats is really hard to do in Asphalt 9 because each car definitely feels different. But I do want to compare it to the Apollo because obviously those are the two cars that have the best top speed in B class. And in terms of handling, this thing blows the Apollo out of the water. The drifting radius is much tighter. You can make sharper corners at a much higher speed, and the speed at which you maintain during your drift is much higher. So that there is just really nice in general. And the nitro efficiency, it's not, I think, as good as something like the Huracan, but it's definitely way better than the Apollo. And it does have a pretty good and respectable nitro efficiency. Now, why I wanted to save acceleration for last is because that is the weakest point of this car. Now, the reason why I say it is the weakest point of this car is because the acceleration at its max rank, so again, this is, I believe, rank 4309 or something like that, the acceleration is only 74.6, which is really, really low. To put that into context, many of the other cars, not only in the class of where the McLaren is, but also just in general in the game, sometimes the acceleration starts at 74 at its stock or like a 1-star rating. So 74 is super low, and the problem with this car is because its acceleration is so low, whenever you drift, whenever you go around a corner or at the start of a race, you're simply going to be behind every other car in its, you know, class range, which is super disappointing. And yes, if you're a really, really good driver and you can keep that top speed as close as you can to its, you know, maximum top speed, so that when you do need to come out of a corner, or when you do need to use nitro to get back to your top speed, it won't take too long. Even if you're, like I said, just a pro player and you're so good at that, everyone else and in general, you need to get this car to be absolutely perfect when you're playing with it, or else the acceleration just ruins it. It'll ruin your run no matter what, because even in Shockwave, it just can't pull ahead of other cars in terms of acceleration, especially the Huracan, which I believe its acceleration is like 84 at max or something like that, which is just absolutely, it just blows the McLaren away. So like I said, the stats really do tell the picture of this car, because the acceleration is just abysmal. I think this honestly would warrant some sort of a buff later from Game Loft, because frankly, it really is that bad in my opinion. especially in multiplayer where acceleration is really, really useful, because you need to get ahead of those players as soon as you can so you don't bump into them and everything. If you're in this car, you're just going to be behind all of those cars at the start of the race. So the only time where this car is going to be super duper useful and very easy to sort of get ahead of the other cars, especially in multiplayer, is like the Himalayas and Cairo. But for really any other track, the Huracan will blow it out of the water because of its acceleration, especially in multiplayer. So that's the first part of this car that I said I don't think makes it the king. Now, the second reason why I don't think this is going to be a king is basically because of how darn expensive it is, and that price compared to what you actually will gain in terms of performance. And like I said, the thing holding this car back is definitely its acceleration, which honestly is very detrimental, because of course every time you go into a corner, you're just automatically at a disadvantage compared to every other B-class king, because all of the other kings have really good handling and really good acceleration. So the corners are taken much better in those cars. Now, because you need to get a 6-star McLaren F1 in order for it to really be a competent car, because at its lower ranks, it just doesn't really compare. Now, I'm not saying it's a definitely bad B-class car. Like, of course, if this is like one of the only high-end B-class cars that you can get, you don't own the other ones, and the Grand Prix is really the only opportunity for you to get one, then absolutely go ahead and see what you can get with this car, because, you know, it is up there and it's definitely not a bad car. But if you already have things like the Apollo or the Huracan, there is really no point in spending tokens on this car unless you can get it to 6 stars and you just have tokens burning a hole in your pocket. So yeah, let's go over kind of what this car compares to, other cars in the game. So the car I'm comparing it against is the Bugatti Chiron. Now, again, got to keep in mind the Bugatti Chiron is an S-Class king. It is not the S-Class king, but it was the OG, and it still is relatively a king of the game in general. Now, when that car came out, the packs were 90 tokens each, which is the same as the F1 LM, but in order for it to get to 6 stars, which is its maximum star rank, you needed only 200 blueprints. Now, of course, that's a lot of blueprints, and this does also account for the fact that you needed 60 to just even unlock the car, whereas with the F1 LM, you already have a key, and if you get the key, you already have the car at 1 star. However, with the F1 LM, and of course, if you have the F1 LM, you already have it at 1 star, it requires 244 blueprints to get to 6 stars. Again, that's even with the car already being at 1 star, which is ridiculous. That's 44 more blueprints than the Bugatti Chiron, which, keep in mind, is an S-Class king. So that is a bit ridiculous. And of course, you're going to say, look, it is a B-Class king, and it is, the rank is pretty high up there. But at the end of the day, if you compare these two cars, the times that you'll get with the Chiron is much, much faster, especially because it has a way higher top speed, the handling is much better, and of course the nitro isn't as good, but at the end of the day, because you're going so fast, you don't need that nitro necessarily all of the time. And, like I said, really the only thing holding this F1 LM back from just obviously being the king of B-Class is its acceleration. And if they, improve it with a buff, and I'm not saying they should bring it up to like 84 or something like that, because obviously that would be overpowered. What I'm saying is that I personally think that it's a bit underpowered in terms of acceleration, because it just doesn't feel like a king, and it doesn't feel like it can really compete with the other B-Class kings because its acceleration is so low. So just keep in mind that for more expensive and more blueprints, you're not really even getting as much as you would from a Bugatti Chiron, which in my opinion is just not very cool. So at the end of the day, I don't recommend spending many tokens on this car, unless you really don't have any other good B-Class cars, which at that point you might as well spend some tokens on this car. But if you're guaranteed a key, then go ahead. But if you're competing in this Grand Prix and you're not sure if you're going to get a key or not, I would just advise that you don't try and spend too many tokens on this car, because even if you get it, if it's not a 6-star F1, then honestly, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be very useful at all. So that is my review and look at the F1 LM. Like I said, I hope that they do buff this car a bit in terms of acceleration. I never hope for a car to come out and it's just going to be bad, but this one just seems a bit too underpowered to be a king and to warrant the ridiculous amount of blueprints and tokens you'll need to get it at a competent rank. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on the F1 LM in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys later.